What this is version control. System. Yeah, version control system or source code management tool. So what we will discuss in this tool, we'll discuss about Git and GitHub. We'll show you GitLab and Bitbucket. Okay. So what are the prerequisites? So what are the prerequisites? Prerequisites 9 guys. Everyone can learn this that version control system Git and GitHub, and duration is 5 days. Sorry, duration is 5 days. Monday to Friday. Trainer Mr. Hari, 12 plus years of XP. Okay. Class timings 9 p.m. to 10 p.m. IST. So what we will provide in this class, we'll provide a soft copy, class notes, unrecorded videos. We'll share via Google Drive. We'll share via Google Drive. So this is the introduction, guys. I will share. So now you understood, right? So what we will discuss in this 5 days duration, Monday to Friday. So right, the Git, GitHub, and GitLab, Bitbucket also will show you guys. So what is Git? What is GitHub? What is version control system? What is source code management tool? So why we need a Git? Why we need a version control system? What is GitHub? So we'll discuss, guys. Okay. Yeah. So DurgaSoft, guys, Git and GitHub user training, level 1 beginners, guys. This is. So, and so myself, I'm a trainer, guys. Myself, Hari Cheruko, DevOps consultant and solution architect with 12 plus years of industry experience as a real-time and trainer. I'm a AWS DevOps solution architect, guys. So I have done few certifications. Those are ITL. I'm ITL certified V3 certified guy. I'm a Red Hat certified system administrator, and I'm a Red Hat certified Linux engineer. And I'm a AWS certified solution architect, and I am a certified Kubernetes administrator, guys. Okay. Yeah. So agenda, so what this course agenda is something like introduction to Git and GitHub. So usage of Git users interface, command line usage of Git towards to advanced usage. Okay. So what are the prerequisites to for this course? So none, guys, but pay attention. So everyone can learn this course. Developers, QA engineers, and the operation engineers and the DevOps engineers. Nowadays, everyone is using the that Git and GitHub, guys. Okay. So the goals and objectives at the end of this class, you should know how to get started with GitHub, be able to work with Git repositories, find information and support, learn for more, guys. You will understand. Okay. So what we will discuss: introduction to version control system. What is version control system? Types of centralized and version distributed version control system, benefits of version control system, introduction to Git, history of Git and GitHub, GitLab and Bitbucket. So installation, guys, how we can install on Windows, Linux, Mac, basic Git configurations and Git utils and command line tools. So Git GUI tools like, so what we will discuss, we'll discuss about the VS Code and Eclipse. For the developers, most of the people are using Eclipse or a VS Code, right? So we'll show you how to integrate that Git in the VS Code and Eclipse, guys. And we'll show you the command line also through the Git bash. So Git basics: creating a Git repository, cloning a repository, a Git directory structure, checking status, adding files, committing and viewing the history, and working with branches, understanding the branches, creating a branch, switching branches, merging branches, conflict resolution, so deleting the branches, Git workflow and collaboration. So remote repositories, pushing changes, pulling changes, fetching changes, so forking and pull requests, GitLab, GitHub, so upstream repositories, so undoing and resetting, what is checkout, git restore, git reset, git revert, stashing changes, git clean, tags and releases, creating a tags, annotated versus lightweight tags, listing and deleting tags, so pushing and the remote. So git rebase, git cherry pick, git hooks, so git ignores will show you guys. Git and GitHub, creating a repositories on the GitHub, SSH configuration, collaborate access issues, projects and actions, guys. So we'll show you the one real-time scenario. Guys, understood? Guys? Yes, yes, this is the demo one only. So not only demo, we'll start the class, guys. So this is the 5 days ones, right? Narendra? Yeah, yeah. So we'll continue in the class, guys. So this is not a demo or something, like guys can start. So in within 5 days, we will complete it, right? So we need to show the Git local repository and the remote repository also. Okay? Yep, thanks. Yep. So what is GitHub? What is Git and GitHub? Something like, what is a version control system? So what is a version control system? I already told you, right? So this is nothing but a version control system or a source code management tool. Version control system or source code management tool. So what is that? So source code repository or a version control system, right? Version control system or source code management tool. So source code repository tool or a version management control, right? So why this one, guys? So why this one? So multiple developers will work for a project development, right? Multiple developers will work for project development, right? So we'll work for the project development. So developers will be working from multiple locations. So for example, some people are working on Hyderabad, some people are working in the Bangalore, some people are working in the Chennai, some people are working in the Mumbai, right? Or else something like different countries. Developers will be working from multiple locations. Multiple locations. All developers code should be stored at one place. All developers code should be stored at one place because of need to integrate, right? Yeah, to integrate. Why? To integrate all the developers source code source code at one place. So use uh, we will use source code repository software. Source code repository softwares. So like GitHub, GitLab, Bitbucket, Azure repo, AWS repo, etc. Right? So yeah, what is that? So some developers are. So what is this? This is a developer. This developer. So this is also developer. So this is also developer. This is also a developer. Okay. So one guy is working in the Chennai region. The another guy is working in the Mumbai region. The another guy is working in UK. Some other guy is in US. Okay. So this is sorry guys, I'm not a dryer. Okay. This guy is working in Hyderabad. Hyderabad. Something like in Mumbai. This is you guys from US. This guy is from UK. Okay. So so multiple developers are working on the different locations. Multiple developers are working on the different locations. So they are developing the code, right? So how to integrate all the developers code at one place? Guys, how to integrate? So what is that? How to integrate all the developers code at one place, right? One place. The second one is how to track code changes in the project. How to track the code changes. Something like what are those who modified, right? Who modified, what modified, and when modified. Okay, why modified, right? So why modified, who modified, when modified, what modified, right? So these are the challenges. How to integrate all the developers code at one place, how to track code changes in the project, who modified, who developed, when developed, when modified, what modified, why modified, right? So for that purpose, we need a repository, right? So we need a repository. So that is a GitHub repository. What is that, guys? GitHub repository. Why GitHub repository, guys? To store the code. To store the code, right? How to how to push their code from developers to the repository. Developers to the repository, right? So there is a you can install the Git client from the Git client from the Git client. They can push the code from their laptop to the repository. Their repository to the repository. Yes, understood?
Yes.
Yes, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Yep. So this is the a remote repository. This is the remote repository. So we can store the data into that remote repository. So this guy from US, this guy from UK, this guy from Mumbai, and this guy from Hyderabad. Something like they are pushing their code to this repository, and we need to track the changes, right? Who modified the code, what modified, when modified, why modified. Everything will be tracked under that remote repository, that GitHub repository. Guys, understood? Now you understood the there is source code management tool Git. Guys, understood? I speak out, guys.
Yes, sir.
Yes, right?
Yeah.
So very good. So now you understood. So what is version control thing? So multiple developers will work for the project development. Developer will working from the multiple locations. All developer code should be stored at one place. To integrate all the developer source code at one place, we will use source code repository software. What is that? GitHub, GitLab, and Bitbucket. Now you understood what is GitHub? Yeah. So next, what is a Git? What is that, guys? What is Git? So now we understood the GitHub, but what is Git? So what is Git? Git is a version control software. What is that, guys? Git is a version control software. It is the version control software, right? So it is a distributed version control system. What is that, guys? It is a distributed. What is distributed? I will tell you. It's a It's a distributed control system. It's a distributed version control system, not centralized. Not centralized. I will tell you what is centralized. Okay. Yeah, it's a distributed control system. It is a version control software. It is a distributed version control system, not centralized. So Git is the version control system. It is used to it is used to track and manage changes to files locally. What is that, guys? Git is a version control software. It is a distributed control system. It is used to track and manage changes to files locally. Files locally. Changes to files locally. Okay. And Git is a Git is a open source. What is that, guys? Git is a open source. Now you understood it is a locally file. If you want to manage and track and manage changes files locally, we can use the Git. We can use the Git. Now you understood what is Git. Then GitHub. You already know the GitHub, right? GitHub is a distributed remote repository. What is that? GitHub is a platform which is used to store project related file source code at one place. Right, guys? So what is that? GitHub is a platform.
Remotely. Right, sir?
Yes, GitHub is a platform which is used to store project related files, source code at one place. At one place. Right. So, and in GitHub, we can create source code repository to store the project code. In GitHub, we can created source code repository to store project code, right? All developers can connect to the project, can connect to the project repository, project repository to store all the source code, right? So why code integration will become very easy? What is that? Code integration will become very easy. Yes, understood? So will become very easy. So what is that? What will do, guys? GitHub, GitHub repository will monitor all code changes. All code changes. How something like who modified the changes, when modified, what modified, and why modified. Okay, so this will be tracking for by the GitHub. So GitHub, yeah. So now, so understood the Git, right? Git, so version control system, source code management, and the version control system. Something like what is a Git? Git is a distributed version control system, not a centralized version control system. Git before, so which source code management tool will use that subversion? Subversion is a centralized version control system. What is the drawback in the centralized version control system? What is the distributed version control system advantages? I will tell you once. So what is centralized? What is distributed version control system? What is centralized version control system? What is distributed version control system? So source code management and the management of changes to documents, computer programs, large websites, and other collection of information. You see, centralized version control system and a distributed version control system. In the centralized version control system, only server, only one remote repository is there. So this is your working copy. This is your laptop. So you directly commit or update the code to the remote repositories. Remote repository. If something goes wrong on the server, so the code will be so the code will be losses, right? So that's the reason. So a distributed version control system came into the picture. So distributed version control system, the centralized version control system is a subversion uses the a distributed version control system is came up because of there is a issue, there is a drawback in here, right? So here in the distributed version control system, there is a remote repository and you have your local repository also. That remote repository and local repository, whatever the code, right? So this is your laptop, this is your laptop, this is your laptop. Your laptop also having local repository and so in the remote also you have a remote repository. The code will be pushes from your local repository to remote repository, local repository, remote repository. If something goes wrong on the remote repository, there will be a code on the if something wrong on the local repository, there will be a code on the remote repository. If something wrong on the remote repository, there will be a code on the local repository, right? So we have a code will be stored under two places. One is remote repository, another one is local repository. So local repository is in our laptop and remote repository is GitHub, GitLab or Bitbucket. Okay. Yes, now you understood the distributed and centralized version control system. You see, so in your laptop, there is a local repository and remote repository. These remote repositories are GitHub, GitLab and Bitbucket. Okay. Yeah. So who developed Git? Who developed Git? Version control software. Yeah. The difference between Git and GitHub, I already told you, right? Yes. Who developed the? Yeah, who developed the Git, guys? Who developed the Git? Who developed the Git? Linus Torvald. So Linus Torvald developed the Git and he released as a open source. He released as a open source, right? Who developed the Linux, guys? Who developed the Linux? That guy is developed the Git. Supriya?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, who developed the Linux? You know? Or you know Linux?
No, that was sir.
Not okay. So
Linus
Linux also developed by Linus Torvald.
Linus Robert. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Sir,
Git released. Yeah.
sir, what is centralized uh, repository?
Centralized repository. So centralized repository is a
Sir, can
SVN.
you see the diagram? Yeah. Yeah.
In the centralized repository, there is no local repository. Whatever the work you done, right, that will be commit and pushed to the remote repository directly. So there is no local repository
Okay.
in
Okay.
the local.
So no Git over here.
Yes.
So we don't use Git in no
Hmm.
we use Git, but there is no GitHub, right, sir?
We use Git.
What is the example of centralized version control?
SVN, subversion. So
Okay.
say, distributed is Git.
Okay.
Okay. So SVN before Git. So for so for source code repository tool is SVN.
Okay.
Okay. SVN works as a centralized version control system. SVN work as a centralized control system, and Git is a distributed version control system. So why
Okay.
Git came into the
SVN.
picture? Because of
SVN will work as a centralized
centralized.
version.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay. And for distributed Git, it will work
Git.
as.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that is
Oh.
the reason Git is popular.
Hmm.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, sir.
Yep. So I already showed, right? So this is your local repository. So your code will be in our local repository, means in
Sir,
our
how this
uh,
works? Like,
yeah, I will show you. I will show you. No worries. Okay.
yeah.
How it will works, I will show you.
So distributed version control, GitHub, all this comes under distributed.
Distributed version control system.
Okay.
I will tell you one thing here.
Yeah.
So yeah. So Linus Torvald Git released as a open source. What is open source, guys?
Free software.
Free of cost
Yeah, free of cost.
and source code also
Available.
available. So source code means for developing the Git through this code, right? Either Java or something like C, C++, whatever it may be. The source code is available. If you have the source code, so what you can do? You can customize whatever you want, right?
Yeah.
Yes, very good. Git CLI. he released as a Git CLI and open source. Okay. So some companies are took that source code and created their own remote repository GUI tools. Their own GUI tools. So those are something like a Atlassian company created a Git, call it as Git repository, call it as a Bitbucket. What is that? Bitbucket. So Microsoft GitHub. So before it is GitHub community. So now it acquired by the Microsoft and GitLab, Azure repo, AWS repo. So these all are the Git GUI tools. What are those? GUI tools. So whatever the commands we are working in the CLI, right? Those commands will, those actions will perform on the GUI also. Those actions so will perform on the GUI also. These all are the remote repository tools. These all are the remote repository tools. Is understood? These are all the so remote repository tools. So for example, GitHub. Okay. So this is my GitHub account. So this is my GitHub account. I have 28 repositories. This is my GitHub account and I have my 28 repositories. So this is the AWS DevOps material. So this is the DevOps material. I use it for storing my materials. You guys understood? This is a GitHub, GitLab, gitlab.com. So in my company, I'm using GitLab, guys. You see, this is also checks. Okay, so this is my first project. This is the repository and bitbucket.com. So this is also a remote repository, Bitbucket, GitLab, GitHub. So the same actions, guys. Whatever we are doing here, right? So in the GitHub, it will be similar to the GitLab and Bitbucket also. It will be similar to the GitLab and Gitbucket. So initially they created as for the repository tools. So now they included the CI/CD also. Now they included the CI/CD, GitHub Actions, GitLab CI, Bitbucket CI/CD also there. Guys, understood? Guys,
Yes, sir.
Supriya,
Yes, yes.
yes, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Yeah. Git CLI. So how we can execute Git commands? How we can interact with the Git? We can interact with the Git commands. Git add, Git commit. I will tell you guys. Git status, Git push, Git pull, Git pull under, Git clone, etc. You guys understood? So Git is a CLI, right? How we can interact with Git? So we can interact with the Git through commands. So the commands, example commands are Git add, Git commit, Git status, Git pull, Git push, Git clone. Everything will do it, guys. You guys understood? Yeah.
So,
So open.
sir, can I assume that Git is related to command line interface,
Yeah.
and
Yes, yes.
GitHub is related to graphical user interface.
Graphical user interface. Yes, yes,
Okay.
yes.
Oh,
So we can do the same operations, but those all are the remote repository to store the code. Okay. So
okay. So
we can store the code in the Git local repository as well as Git remote repository. So Git local repository through Git CLI and Git remote repositories through something like GitHub, GitLab, Bitbucket. Understood?
okay. Okay. So in real time, if local people will work on Git, and on-site people and local people combinedly work on GitHub.
Local people, no, everyone
No.
can use Git local, Git
Okay.
CLI
Compulsory.
for
Okay.
local
Okay.
repository. And
Okay.
everyone can connect to the remote repository. Whatever the code they done it, right? So
Yeah.
from their folder to they are push it to the local repository. From local
Mm,
repository, they will push it to the remote repository.
okay.
Everyone work. Something like today I done something like I want to push it to the remote repository. I will push it to the
So,
remote repository through local repository only.
so can I imagine the example like if I want to catch the Air India flight, I need to go to Terminal 1. From there, the Air India bus I need to
Mm,
go to
mm, mm,
platform. Like that, I
mm.
can
Yes,
catch
yes,
the,
yes, yes,
yeah, understood,
yes,
sir.
yes. Understood, right?
Yeah,
So what
yes.
are UI tools?
GitHub,
It's
Bitbucket,
very good. GitHub,
Bitbucket,
Bitbucket,
and
GitLab,
GitLab.
AWS repo, Azure repo. You know AWS Azure, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And many more. Just few of
Yes.
them is.
Mm.
So mostly I worked on in my previous company, I worked on the Bitbucket. Okay. Now I am working on the GitLab. Before previous company, I worked on the GitHub. Okay. So it will be varies from company to company. So in which are you working, right? Real time employees, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So are you using any GitHub or something like are you using any remote repository?
No, sir. Actually, I'm from QA background.
QA now.
So,
Oh, QA also
yeah,
nowadays
yeah,
QA people also yeah
yeah.
for the automation.
Automation, yeah. I was
Mm.
less experienced in automation, but they use Bitbucket. I am aware, not
Okay, okay.
fully aware.
Mm.
My company using that Bitbucket.
Yeah. By the end of the class, you will understand everything. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Priya, you also know. You also working on which GUI tool? Supriya, you there? Huh? Mute. Okay, no worries. Okay. So yeah, who developed Git? Linus Torvald developed the Git as a open source Git CLI. How you can connect with the Git in our local through the Git CLI. Okay. So GUI tools, GitHub, Bitbucket, GitLab, AWS repo, Azure repo, etc. Right. So next, what is a Git client? What is Git client? So how you are interacting with this GitHub remote repository through the Git client only, right? So what is Git client? How to set up the Git client? So what is a Git client? Git client, also known as a Git or a Git bash, is used in developer mission that connects with the GitHub, GitLab, or Bitbucket. What is that? Git client, also known as Git or Git bash. What is that? Git or Git bash is used in developer or QA or DevOps mission that connects with GitHub, GitLab, or bit bucket. Okay, bit bucket. Guys, now you understood? Git client also known as a Git or a Git bash is used to is used in developer or QA or DevOps engineer mission that connects with the GitHub, GitLab or Bitbucket. These all are the remote repositories. Okay, guys, understood?
Sir.
Yeah. So where is that? Yeah. So for example, so what is that? What is a branch? What is a repository? So what is a repository? Now you understood Git remote repository. So remote repository is a where developers are store the data. So for example, the repository is AWS DevOps material. AWS DevOps material. Every repository, whenever you create a new repository, whenever you create a new repository. So by default, it will automatically create the branch. It will automatically create the branch. So we have how many branches we have? So we have 5 branches. How many branches we have? We have 5 branches. So what are those? Something like a main branch, future add, modify, revert. These all are the branches, right? So what is the what is the branch by default? It will create the main branch. So whatever the developer, whatever the production code, right? Whatever the code in the production environment, that code will be is in the main environment, main branch. That will be in the main branch. So what is a branch? So maintain separate code base for applications like a development branch, production branch, UAT branch, stage branch, hotfix branch, testing branch, and etc. Right? A repository contains the number of branches, but whenever you create the branch, by default, it will create the main branch. It will create the main branch. So whatever the code is in the production environment, right? That code it in the main branch. So the developers will not disturb the main branch, will create the new branches, future branch or something like new branches, and they will they will write the code in their future branch, and they will create a merge request from future branch to main branch with a reviewer of a manager or lead a reviewer of manager or lead. Guys, understood what is a branch? Now you understood?
Yes, sir.
Yes, right. So what is
Yeah.
a branch? Maintain a separate code base for applications like a development branch, production branch, UAT branch, stage branch, hotfix branch, testing branch. Right. So you don't need to disturb the main branch code. Right. You can create your own branch, and you can modify the changes. For example, I will tell you one example. So for example, this is the a repository. What this is? This is a repository. What this repository is? This repository name is WhatsApp repository. What this repository? WhatsApp repository. A WhatsApp repository, whenever you create the WhatsApp repository, right, a main branch is created. Which branch? A main branch is created. Right. So in the main branch, what code having? So initially, the WhatsApps comes from chat and contacts. In the main branch, so whatever they deployed in the production, right? So they deployed in the production, that code will be available under the main branch. So what it contains? It contains WhatsApp 1.0. So 1.0 contains the chat and contacts, right? So next, the next print you are trying to add a new feature in the WhatsApp. The feature is called as a status, right? What you can go, what you can do, you can create a new branch from the main branch. What is what you can create? You can create a new branch from the main branch, that is future or status branch. You created a status branch or something like a future branch. So what is that? this feature branch. What feature branch? You can use this branch and you can develop the code for the status. So this is the code for the status. So where you wrote the code, you wrote the code in the future branch. Though you are not disturbing the main branch, you are writing the code in the future branch. What you can do, you can merge the code from this branch to this branch with the reviewer. Who is with the reviewer? So who is the reviewer? The reviewer should be a lead or manager. Lead or manager. Now you are merging future to main. Future to main. Now, so this is nothing but merge. Merge request or pull request. You don't know this. I will tell you. Just imagine, guys. Okay. Yeah. So the code will be pushed from future to main. Then again, it will deploy it under the production. Now the main is deployed under the production. What production contains? Chart, status, feature. Guys, understood? You cannot disturb the main branch. Whenever you want to do any modifications, you can create a new branch and you can modify, you can write the code on the new branch and push the changes from that branch to main branch. Guys, now you understood? Maintain a separate code base for applications like development, production, UAT, stage, hotfix, testing, or something like whatever explained to now, right? You understood? Guys?
Yes, sir.
Yes, right? Very good.
Yeah.
Yep. Now we understood the branch. Now we understood the branch. So what is the branch? Maintain separate code base for applications like development branch, production branch, UAT branch, stage branch, hotfix branch, testing branch, and etc. Right, guys? So now you understood the branch. Now you understood the Git client. What is local repository? What is remote repository? You already know remote repository. Local repository. You already know. What is local repository? So developer mission contains code at .git folder. What is that? Developer mission contains at .git folder. So a developer mission contains the .git folder. Okay. So what this is? BMS test. So you see, this is main. So it is adding a main. It is nothing but a local repository. cd dot slash cd app data or documents. You see? So after that this is a directory or a folder. After the folder, the main or something like it is showing. No, it is not showing. This is nothing but a normal directory. So normal directly. How you can figure out if it is a local repository folder or a folder? This is the normal folder. If it is a local repository, the branch, whatever the branch is in this repository. Now you are in the main repository, right? cd bms cd dot slash bms test. Okay. So this is nothing but a repository. Developer mission contains a code at .git folder ls-la. Right. This is the .git folder. That is nothing but a local repository. A folder contains the .git folder. A developer machine contains a coded .git folder that is nothing but a local repository. So what is remote repository? Remote repository you already know. So what is remote repository? This is the remote repository. So remote repository GitHub contains a code. Remote repository GitHub contains code connected to all developer machines. This remote repository will connect to the all the developers or QA engineers or DevOps engineers, whatever the people guys. So understood, Narendra?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yeah. So we'll continue from tomorrow. So what
Yeah.
we will show you how to install the Git client environment setup, and how to communicate with from your local repository, how to create a local repository, how to communicate with from your local to a remote repository, and we'll show you how to commit to git add, git commit, how we can do the operations on the git bash in the local repository. Okay,
Sure, sir.
we'll show you that tomorrow. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
We understood, right, Nagendra
Yeah,
Prasad?
yes, sir.
Thanks. Ajay, what about you?
Sir,
Able to
understood.
understand? Yeah,
Yes,
thank
yes,
you.
sir.
Yeah.
Sir,